Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today I want to talk about the internet because I wanted to have a discussion about how the internet is enabling and emboldening shooters or mass shooters around the entire world. And I think this is one of those things that I think just needs discussing all over the planet because this got me thinking due to some recent news that I literally just read earlier today. Here's what's going on that sparked this. Investigators have learned that the suspect that shot Shinzo Abe, the former prime minister of Japan, the shooter is Yamagami Tetsuya, has developed animosity towards the Family Federation of World Peace and Unification, formerly known as the Unification Church, also known as the Moonies. His mother was a member, donated a whole bunch of money. He was obviously arrested on scene on July 8th for shooting Abe in the back in Nara City in western Japan. But before the shooting, he is believed to have posted a letter saying that Abe was not his primary adversary, even though the former prime minister was one of the most influential sympathizers of that particular group, known again as the Moonies, the Unification Church. And that got me thinking about just the role that the online presences play for a shooter. Looking at mass shooters around the world, we can see that social media and the internet is at the core of their strategy, but also gives them psychological reinforcement. Now, consider these examples. The Highland Park shooter from the July 4th shooting, unfortunately down the street from here, was all over social media trying to get basically his rap career off the ground and using essentially imagery that foreshadowed exactly what he ended up doing. He also apparently had plans to shoot up another place in Madison, Wisconsin. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. Look at the Buffalo, New York shooter. He live streamed his atrocity on Twitch. That has now been viewed essentially in the underground of the internet millions of times. I happen to have seen that video as well, as utterly horrific. The New Zealand shooter live streamed his attack on Facebook. He's obviously in New Zealand, where they have almost no gun violence. And there are basically niche message boards where these people can find like-minded people. All of the above that I just mentioned have frequented message boards like 8kun, which was formerly 4chan, where you have seen so many shooters like the one in El Paso a couple years ago post their manifestos. Also, the Norway shooter posted his manifesto to 4chan and 8kun as well. These are also the message boards that have birthed things like QAnon, the conspiracy that JFK Jr. is coming back from the dead, of all things, that Hillary Clinton was running a pedophile ring out of a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C., known as Comet Ping Pong, that children are being sold through a furniture website, and on and on and on. The one thing, for the record, that we will never escape in society is the mentally ill. But I think it's important to note here that mentally ill people who are in treatment are not the issue here. It's the ones where we see poor choices being made around them as they grow up, like the Highland Park shooter. When he was 19 years old, the police had to come and confiscate all of his knives and bladed weapons and swords and all that kind of stuff. And as a minor here in Illinois, his father actually, a few months after that, signed his FOID card, firearms owner identification application, so that he could actually, as a minor, start buying guns. A few months after an incident with the police where he had this stuff taken away. This is what I'm talking about. But on top of that, it's also the platforms like the 8kuns of the world where we see them encouraging and cheering each other on, talking about, literally, I've seen these actual threads about, if they were in that, meaning, oh, the Highland Park shooter, or take your shooter, if I had done that, I would have done X differently to increase the body count or to evade the police or, whatever it is. These people are encouraging each other. It's absolutely nuts. A short while ago, for example, I also interviewed the leader of the Flat Earth movement, Mark Sargent, and it's under that same vein. Now, obviously, Flat Earth is a lot more innocuous than talking about like shooters, in the dark web, or on 8kun, which is surface. But the point is that when I was trying to talk with Mark Sargent, it was very hard to keep him on track. I essentially was saying that if it wasn't for the internet and the message boards, and then eventually social media and YouTube and everything else, you'd pretty much be like 12 people with a newsletter, and you wouldn't be getting people like, NBA players basically saying, well, maybe I should take a look at, flat earth stuff. This is what I'm talking about. My point here is that we, as a society, need to have this discussion on this. We need to basically understand and address how these people are being enabled. It can be as innocuous as flat earth, which essentially casts doubt into, let's say traditional science, because the science has been settled on that for literally centuries, Or it can be more dastardly where, you've got basically a shooter that's, maybe on the fence. I want to do this, but I don't. I'm not sure. And they're online basically, getting encouragement from other people. They're like, yeah, do it, do it, do it, do it. We can be for free speech. We really can, but it seems like in this vein, we are basically shouting fire in a crowded theater, only hundreds of times worse, given all the shootings that we see. And I think this needs discussion. I think we need to understand how these boards are essentially doing this. Are those people, while you can anonymously post and saying, yes, go for it, shoot, 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 why aren't they accomplices? Why aren't we looking at them? Why isn't there some kind of registration system to say you can actually absolutely have free speech, but now you have to basically show who you are? The internet gives us anonymity, and that can be a very good thing, especially when we are, let's say, thwarting or attempting to go against things like authoritarian governments. But the rest of the time, that's kind of a difficult sell, only in the sense that we have lost some politeness. We are, I think, more angry of a people because it comes out because we're anonymous online and we're venting all of our frustrations in the atmosphere for the world to see and for us to be encouraged. And so I think that's something that just deserves discussion. Again, I'm not adjudicating this one way or the other. I know we have a problem with this. I think we have a problem with this. I think everybody would agree that we have a problem with this. The question is, what do we do with it? Is this just the cost of living in a totally open and free society, as we attempt to do that? Should there be controls be put on place while respecting and preserving things like freedom of speech? I think these are important things to note, and I think it just really deserves a discussion. So I was thinking about this today as I was reading the news on Shinzo Abe, and I thought, you know what, this would be a pretty good video and podcast for the day, and there you are. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everyone.